cavity. Okay, nasal cavity, we have four walls, one pair and one superior and inferior wall, and sometimes some book they are discussing like we have three walls. Okay. Okay, we will going to continue our topic today, nasal cavity. This is the nasal cavity structure which I draw like not like real bone, but for understanding is better. Okay, today topic our nasal cavity. Okay, first nasal cavity we have four walls. Okay, four or three walls of nasal cavity. Okay, first one, this one. Okay, this one is a superior wall. Superior wall. This is a lateral wall which are impaired. Lateral wall. And last one is the inferior wall of nasal cavity. Inferior wall of nasal cavity. Okay, how walls? Superior wall, lateral wall and inferior wall in the nasal cavity. Okay, we know nasal cavity are divided into two halls, right halls and left one, by nasal suture, and this nasal suture are formed from the perpendicular plate of ethimoid bone. If you remember, when we discussed the ethimoid bone, we told like perpendicular plate of the nasal bones, ethimoid bone are located inside the nasal cavity, which division of formed from division of the two halls, right and left hall in nasal cavity. Okay, these are the nasal suture which form from the perpendicular plate of the ethimoid bone. Okay, now we are going to discuss the formation, each wall formation. Which formation we have? Superior wall, how many bones part or surfaces take part in superior wall, and how many bones are surfaces of bones which take part in the lateral wall, and inferior wall also the same. First we will going to discuss the superior wall of the nasal cavity. Okay, superior wall. Superior wall of nasal cavity. Which formation we have there? First, you know, this is the nasal two bones which we know in the facial skull. We have lower border in the, because the lower border of the nasal bones take part in the nasal cavity. Lower border of nasal bone. Nasal bone. Os nasalis, margo. Second, when we discussed the frontal bone, we told we have the nasal part of the frontal bone, and this nasal this from the back side. Okay, in the of nasal bones. Okay, but I draw here. Okay, the second we have nasal part or paranasalis of os frontalis. Okay, or nasal part of the frontal bone. Nasal part of frontal bone. Frontal bone, paranasale, nasalis of os frontalis. Okay, four formation we have superior wall. Okay, 1, 2. The third one we have what? Which do you remember when we discussing the sphenoid bone, and I told sphenoid bone we have body of sphenoid bone we have 6 surfaces. Okay, and here the which surface will take part? Here the inferior surface of the body of sphenoid bone take part. Inferior surface of sphenoid bone. Sphenoid bone. Okay, fourth one, ethimoid bone, cribriform plate. Okay, which are located in horizontal plane. Cribriform plate of ethimoid bone. Ethimoid bone. These are the 4 formation, the basic formation of the superior wall of the nasal cavity. Okay, first one is the margo of nasal bone. Okay, second we have paranasalis of frontal bone, os frontalis. Then we have fasces in inferior of os sphenoidale, and the fourth one we have lamina cribriform of os ethimoidial. Okay, these are the four formation of the nasal cavity: lower border of the nasal cavity, nasal part of the frontal bone, inferior surface of the sphenoid bone, and cribriform plate of ethimoid bone. These you will, if you remember, which I showed in the practical class also to the student who Kuban State medical students. Okay, I showed them in the real bone also. Okay, in the in which bone we have these surfaces and this formation. Okay, if you remember the bones, real bones, then you understand which I write here in the formation of the superior wall, which take part in the superior wall of the nasal cavity. Okay, we discussed superior wall of the nasal cavity. Now we will going to discuss the second wall of the nasal cavity. Second wall we have inferior wall, is very short. Okay, inferior wall of the nasal cavity. Inferior wall of nasal cavity. Inferior wall of nasal cavity. Which bones and which bone processes or surfaces, okay, take part in the nasal cavity. Okay, do you remember in our nasal cavity lower bone there is located the palatal with maxilla bone and lower floor of maxilla bone and floor of maxilla bone? Which process take part is the palatine process of the maxilla bone. First two formation we have there basically. Palatine, first one, palatine process of maxilla bone, because when we discussed the maxilla bone, I told maxilla bone we have four processes. Okay, and here which process? Palatine bone, because that in the palatine side because from the inferior they are connection with the posterior they are connection with the horizontal plate of palatine bone. Okay, that's why we call palatine process of the maxilla bone. Second formation we have horizontal plate of palatine bone. Okay, these are the two formations which take part in the inferior wall of the nasal cavity. Processes palatinus of os maxilla bone, of os maxilla, and lamina horizontalis of os palatinium. These are the two formation palatine process of the maxilla bone and horizontal plate of the palatine bone, which take part in the inferior wall of the nasal cavity. These are the two wall which we discussed in the nasal cavity, but it's very short and very easy, okay, for understanding. If you remember the osteology, craniology, okay, and you remember the names of and parts of the bones which take part in facial skull, okay, and cranium also. Now the lateral wall, the pair wall, which were like little bit difficult, okay, for understanding. Lateral wall of the nasal cavity. Okay, lateral wall of the nasal cavity. Lateral wall of nasal cavity. Okay, lateral wall formation. You know, this is a, if you remember when we discuss the palatine bone, we have two plates. Okay, one is located like in where they take part in inferior wall, and one is take part in the lateral wall of the nasal cavity, because we have two plates. This one is horizontal and this one is a perpendicular plate of the palatine bone, okay, which are discussed in the palatine bones. But here we are just talking about the lateral wall. Okay, these are the which I showed. This is the palatine bone, take part in the lateral wall. Okay, perpendicular plate. Then we have here maxilla bone, frontal process of the maxilla bone, frontal process. Then we have inside the orbit we have lacrimal, which are located in the laterally. Okay, then we have bony labyrinths in ethimoid bone, which we discuss. Okay, these are the which nasal surface of the maxilla bone also they take part in the nasal surface here. Okay, nasal surface facing the, why nasal? Because we discussing nasal cavity. Okay, these are take part in the nasal cavity. Okay, this formation I will write here. First, frontal process of maxilla bone, which are take part in the lateral wall. Maxilla bone, Then we have lacrimal bone, lacrimal bone. Then we have bony labyrinths, bony labyrinth of ethimoid bone, okay. Ethimoid bone. We have perpendicular plate of palatine bone, which are take part in the lateral wall of the nasal cavity, palatine bone. Then we have nasal surface of maxilla bone. Okay, these are the basic formation which are located in the lateral wall of the nasal cavity. But in lateral walls we also have, if you know, when we discussing ethimoid bone, we discuss their superior and inferior nasal concha. Okay, but in the these are the two concha which are located in ethimoid bone, but one is concha which are independent bone, which is called inferior nasal concha, which are located in the nasal cavity. Okay, now we discuss the basic formation of the lateral wall of the nasal cavity. Now we are going to discuss the concha, which take part in the three main concha which are located in the lateral wall of the nasal cavity. First is superior nasal concha, we have inferior nasal concha, and middle nasal concha. Inferior nasal concha. These are the three concha which are take part in the lateral wall of the nasal cavity. Now these two are present in ethimoid bone. This one is our independent bone, okay, which we discussed in facial bone. We have body entry process of the inferior nasal concha bone. Okay, now these are located in, also take part in the nasal cavity. Okay, superior nasal concha, if we have, then we have also three. Between them we have meatus. Okay, between superior and inferior we have superior nasal meatus. Okay, between inferior and middle, I write two times here. Okay, sorry, for middle and inferior we have middle nasal meatus, and lower the inferior we have inferior nasal meatus. Okay, these are the three concha and meatus which are take part in the lateral wall of the nasal cavity. But there we have, you know, which we discuss superior nasal meatus, also take part if you remember when we discussed the bony labyrinths, there we have classification of, we discussed ethimoidial cells. We have posterior, middle and interior ethimoidial cell. Now in superior we have take part posterior ethimoidial cells, superior nasal meatus. We have posterior ethimoidial cell, in inferior and middle we have superior, and middle we have middle ethimoidial cell. Okay, ethimoidial cells. These are take part in the lateral wall of the nasal cavity, which now we discuss the formation of each wall: superior wall, inferior wall and lateral wall. These are the formation which take part in the each walls of the nasal cavity. Okay, now we'll this is the topic about the nasal cavity. Okay, which bones, which surfaces which take part in superior wall, inferior wall and lateral walls. Okay, thank you for watching.